Alright, so you got movies and music. There was no way I was skipping out on this one. 2025 soundtrack vinyl tag. Let's get into it. Alright, welcome back to Junior's Music Corner. If this is your first time joining us, I appreciate it. Stick around, man. Alright, looks like I'm back. 2 tags, 2 videos in 1 week. I got to be back. But anyway, I ran across this this vinyl tag, and I was happy to see it. Something I could really get into. So shout out to That Vinyl Guy Bozz on That Vinyl channel. This is presented by him. And there's 13 questions, all soundtrack related. Come on, let's go. All right, number 1. What is your favorite movie soundtrack purchase of 2024? That, without a doubt, is going to be the reissue of the Above the Rim soundtrack. Great soundtrack to a classic movie starring the late, great Tupac Shakur. And what was special about this pressing, or this reissuing, is that it contained a few songs that weren't released on the soundtrack before. They were never released on the vinyl releases. And back in the day when the soundtrack first came out, Tupac's song Pain was only available on cassette. Even if you bought the CD, that song wasn't on it, because it was a way of them getting more money. Since if you wanted that song, you had to go purchase another format. But with this release, they included all the songs, and I was happy to add this one to my collection, Above the Rim soundtrack. All right, number 2, the last soundtrack you bought in 2024. That's gonna be the soundtrack to the classic Jamaican film, The Harder They Come, starring Jimmy Cliff. Great movie, some great music. I believe I've shown this record. I showed it when I first picked it up. But great soundtrack. If you love older reggae music, this is a good one. The film was a classic film. I still watch it. I hadn't seen it when I was young, but some years back, they released it on DVD, and it came with the DVD. It also came with the CD of the soundtrack. But I was happy to pick this up, original pressing, and great album, man. Shout out Jimmy Cliff. Harder They Come. All right, number 3, a soundtrack you own more than 1 copy of. That's gonna be Curtis Mayfield's Superfly soundtrack. Yeah, I have 3 copies of this. I have shown this record several times. It is more like a co-host to this channel. And one of my top viewed shorts. I did a short on this album, and they love that short more than anything else about this channel. But classic, man, classic album, classic movie. Shout out Curtis Mayfield. If you haven't heard this album, welcome to Earth, and today go get you a copy of it, because it's one for the books, man. Superfly. All right, number 4 is to pick a genre and show a soundtrack from that genre. All right, so the genre I went with is documentary, and the soundtrack I went with is the show soundtrack. This is a documentary on hip hop, rappers, rap music, all that. One of the first professional movies or documentary films on rap, and it's still a great film. Also a great soundtrack. Lots of good artists. This was in the 90s, and it still doesn't fail. So shout out Russell Simmons. Shout out all the artists that were on this album, all the artists that were in the film, and classic, man. Okay, so number 5, show a score from your collection. For that one, I went with Spike Lee's first film, She's Gotta Have It. Score composed by Bill Lee, which is Spike's father. Classic, man. This is I want to say this was 86. Let's see. Yeah, 86. So when this film came out, I was 5 or about to turn 5. A buddy of mine, his parents had this film, and of course he was not supposed to watch it, and I know my parents would not have wanted me watching it at that age, but there was one day where his parents were gone and he put it in and we watched it. But classic film, the start to Spike Lee's career. His dad did a great job with the music. Some great tunes on here, so that's my pick. She's gotta have it. A Spike Lee joint. All right, number 6. Based on pressing date, your oldest soundtrack in your collection. That's gonna be my copy of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. One of my favorite films. Love this since a child. The music is forever. This is a 71, original 71 pressing. One of the greats. Loved it as a kid, and I can still put this on. And I prefer this one over the remake with Johnny Depp. I guess that's for the youngins, for the new school, but keep it OG with that Gene Wilder. Love it. All right, number 7 is I Feel Pretty. Show a cool color or splatter vinyl record from the soundtrack. The majority of my soundtracks are pressed on black vinyl. There are some that are one base color, but out of all of them, and I just showed this record, but it's the Above the Rim soundtrack. And if we're going with like a cool factor, if we're gonna even deal with color vinyl, it's gonna be my new pressing of the Above the Rim soundtrack. I did do a video on this record when I first got it and showcased the color, but I thought it was pretty cool. It goes with the colors that are on the cover. So that's it. Above the Rim. Number 8. Show any 7-inch soundtrack / movie related vinyl. The closest that I could get to this was, alright, back in the day there was a movie, Deep Cover, and the lead song on that soundtrack was a song titled, same title, Deep Cover, by Dr. Dre, and introducing a young Snoop Dogg at the time. But in 1998, Big Pun and Fat Joe covered that song and did their own, and this is Big Pun and Fat Joe's version of Deep Cover, which I spoke on my 2025 vinyl tag with best 3 lines in a song. This is the 7-inch pressed on black and clear vinyl. Classic song. All right, number 9, show your favorite soundtrack album artwork. Going through them, I end up going with James Brown, and this is the soundtrack for Slaughter's big ripoff. Classic movie starring Jim Brown. I thought it was dope though. You got James Brown with a big Tommy gun. You see those gold records, and then you got the cover of the album, classic blaxploitation style. James Brown, Jim Brown, Slaughter's big ripoff. The sequel to Slaughter. Shout out James Brown, one of the best, if not the best. All right, number 10, original and remake. Show one of each. All right, I've got 2 for that. First one I'm going with is a record I just showed, like I say, the co-host of my channel, Curtis Mayfield's Superfly, and also the soundtrack from the remake of the movie Superfly, which is mostly a future album. There's some other people featured on this. I think they did a pretty good job on remaking this film. I don't think this soundtrack compares to this soundtrack at all. I would choose this one over the reissue. And as a matter of fact, there's a song that plays in the movie that I sought when I got this soundtrack. And it's not the same version on the soundtrack. The one on the film is better. And yeah. So, but overall, I think they did a good job with modernizing the tale of Priest and the original Superfly. I think it's pretty good. Good actor. He was believable. Pretty good film. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Modern Superfly. But also, I wanted to show Shaft. So we got Shaft, Isaac Hayes, and then the first remake of Shaft. They also did a part 2 of this with Samuel L. Jackson. Classic Isaac Hayes. You already know. But this was the remake had a great soundtrack. T.I., first time I heard T.I. was actually on this soundtrack. There's a song he had with Beanie Siegel. And when I first heard that song and I heard T.I., I didn't know who he was. He said his name, but he was like King of the South and he was boastful. But on top of all that, his rhymes were good, which made me question, like, who is this guy, you know? Of course, there's other songs, R. Kelly's I'm a Bad Man, which was a good song, but Shaft and Shaft. Let's move along. All right, number 11, show any 90s soundtrack. I went with Thin Line Between Love and Hate, one of Martin's films. Great movie, crazy movie. Also starred Bobby Brown, which is my guy. And this was the first time that this soundtrack was released on vinyl. It was well, I'll get it out. I was pressed on a red. But this was a good soundtrack. It was a good movie, but it was a good soundtrack. I did buy it when it first came out. I had it on CD, and we would play it. Lots of people up there. LBC Crew, H-Town, Robert Kelly, of course. The Loonies, Drew Down, Roger Troutman, Shirley Murdoch. Dope soundtrack. This was one of my favorites. When I did see this was released on vinyl, I quickly bought it. So this one's been in my collection for a little minute. Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Classic. Alright, number 12, Bargain Bin Find, a soundtrack you found in the bargain bin. Minister Society. One of my favorite films from the 90s. Dope soundtrack. I liked it when it came out. I found this in the bargain bin. I spoke on this before on my To Dig or Not to Dig in the bin video. This is not the complete soundtrack. This was a sampler, but most of the songs that I liked from the soundtrack were on this. And there's actually 2 copies in here. And the good thing, they're both different. And what's even better is they were both found for a bargain. So, Minister Society, Hughes Brothers film. Shout out, classic. All right, 13. Show something soundtrack or movie related that is not a standard vinyl record or a CD. And he said this could be anything. One of my favorite films as a kid was Rad. From like 3 to 9, those years I spent in Germany, and riding bikes was our thing. And when this movie came out, there was nothing I wanted more than to be able to do the tricks and all of that stuff that I saw in this movie. The record is not what I'm showing though. This was it was pressed on red, but in here I keep a this is an autographed picture of Bill Allen, who played Crew Jones, and Lori Loughlin, Crew number 33. Say go Balls out. Anyway, like I say, one of my favorite movies as a kid. The soundtrack still, it's nostalgic, takes me back. Makes me want to get on that BMX. But anyway, shout out Bill Allen. All right, that is gonna wrap it up for this 2025 soundtrack vinyl tag. I enjoyed this. I appreciated it, finding that there was one. And if you made it this far, go ahead and hit that like button, tap that subscribe button, man. And until next time, peace.